Use emotional intelligence to understand situations better. The problem with people is that when they enter any kind of social situation, they automatically look at it only from their perspective. They don't realize that their emotions, as well as the signals that they're sending out, have consequences. It's not unusual for people to say that they are victims because wherever they go, it seems that the worst side of people come out. It really is quite sad to hear these kinds of stories because when these people narrate their experience, they are completely blind to the fact that they are not watching a movie. When you walk into a room full of people, you are affecting the scene around you. It's not a one-way street. It's not like you sit down and you watch a movie. It's a two-way street. You are also sending signals. You have to take ownership of those signals because they have consequences. You can't just say that people are mean to you and conveniently ignore the fact that you had a role to play. I don't know about you, but calling somebody an idiot is probably not going to elicit a positive response. Refusing to smile and stabbing people with your stares are not exactly signals that foster friendship, openness, and accessibility. You have to always look at the consequences of your emotions. This is a key component of emotional intelligence. Unfortunately, to get here, you must already have a clear understanding of your own emotions. You must be able to identify your emotions, not just internally, but objectively as well. Just as importantly, you must be able to master how you communicate your emotions. These two skill sets are required for you to get to this level, which is to look at the consequences of your emotional states. There is a complicated interplay between your range of emotions and the emotions of other people. This is what makes social reality. You have to understand how this works because if you are clueless regarding how your own signals start a chain reaction in other people, then you're always going to feel like you can't do anything right. You are always going to feel like you are the victim and people just don't like you. You might want to stop and look at how well you communicate your emotions and, most importantly, how mindful you are of how these signals trigger a chain reaction. You need to understand that at some level or other, people are mirrors. They can only reflect whatever light you give them. They can only bounce back whatever color you flash in their direction. You have to understand how this works. Unfortunately, to come into a room thinking that it's all about you and people just don't get you is not going to do you any favors. You are not going to emotionally grow. Your relationships are going to be stunted. People are not going to trust you the way they could. It's a dead end. Conflicts arise more often due to low EI. If you are completely clueless of how the chain reaction of emotion states your presence in any kind of social setting triggers, don't be surprised if there are all sorts of conflicts. Now, please understand that this doesn't necessarily mean violent conflicts. It can be an argument or, worse yet, people don't even say anything, but in their minds, they'd rather not deal with you. This is more dangerous. Why? You can't quite put your finger on it, but it seems like nobody wants to be friends with you or trust you. You are kept in the dark. How do conflicts arise due to low EI? Well, you can say thoughtless words. For example, you go to a meeting and you know that a friend of yours recently lost her father and you say something that could be misinterpreted easily. Maybe you could have used other words. Maybe you could have just shut up and just projected comforting emotions or assuring signals. You can also take thoughtless actions. If you know somebody is sensitive to certain foods and then you eat those foods in front of them, it can signal disrespect. It definitely can trigger all sorts of negative emotions on their end. Another common conflict arising from low emotional intelligence involves hypocrisy. If you talk a big game about who you are and you project a certain image of yourself, make sure that everything you say emote and line up with your PR. Otherwise, people would say that there is something off with you. They can't quite put their finger on it, but the more you do your thing, the more uncomfortable they become. Even if they cannot say the word hypocrisy, the fact that there is a big disconnect between how you present yourself and certain things you claim about yourself and what you actually do will put you in a negative light. Let's put it this way, you'll be less influential and persuasive. Finally, you might just be sending out bad signals altogether. These are just signals of conflict, menace, threat, or animosity. These may be due to habits or these may be due to certain situations that come up in any kind of interaction. Whatever the case may be, you might want to stop doing this. You might want to pay careful attention to the consequences of these. What is the answer? The answer is actually quite simple when it comes to emotional interplay and complexity. Start with your own emotional self-understanding. In other words, use your high level of emotional authenticity to act as the foundations for understanding others. In other words, know yourself first. Make sure that you truly know yourself and then project this out to a sincere search to understand others. Emotional self-understanding is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. You can't make any progress if you don't get this down. Unfortunately, this is precisely the part that people dismiss. They think they know themselves already. That's why they're having a tough time building emotional bridges with others. This is how you change the chain reaction. You don't have to always bring out the worst in people. You don't have to be triggered by whatever things people say. See how these evolve with time and with different people, and you would quickly realize that most of the time it's not them, it's you. Take comfort from this. I know it hurts to hear. After all, nobody wants to be wrong. But let's put it this way. It's hard enough trying to change yourself. Can you imagine trying to change other people? That is a dead end, so you have to focus on changing yourself. It all begins with honesty and clarity. Key requirements to managing interpersonal emotional complexity. Assuming that you have a high enough level of emotional authenticity and self-awareness, the following are required to help you cement your emotional intelligence. First, you need attention to detail. This means you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Sure, the words "you're ugly" seem pretty straightforward. It may seem black and white, but you have to allow yourself to be curious. What exactly did that mean? What context did that come from? What happened before, during, and after? Developing an eye for emotional detail grows from a natural curiosity about other people. In other words, you have to care about other people for this to work. Unfortunately, if you think you're just a victim and it seems that certain people are out to get you, curiosity about other people is the first thing to go. You couldn't care less. All you care about is that you got hurt. That's all you can see. That's how far your analysis goes. Overcome the natural tendency. I know that you're defensive right now, but choose to be curious and see the bigger picture. Next, you need to respect other people. Please understand that respect means that you accept that other people's emotions are equally valid and are as important as yours. This all comes from the belief that people are entitled to their emotional states. They're entitled to form emotions. Now, you can talk to them as to the wisdom of their conclusions and maybe come up with a happy resolution, but everybody is entitled to their internal process. That's where respect comes from. Again, I know this is unpleasant to many people. I know we always question people's actions toward us, but we have to apply the same analysis to ourselves. If you want to be treated a certain way, shouldn't you give the same kind of courtesy to others? Next, you need to believe in that fact that emotional chain reactions do exist. This means that you have to understand that when you send emotional signals, you're not just venting. It creates a chain reaction. There will be a response to what you just did. Understand how this works. Also understand that when you plug into any kind of social interaction, there are other people sending out signals as well. This creates some sort of emotional network. Be aware that this is going on so you can be more thoughtful regarding your role in such a network. Finally, you need to be patient. Don't try to change others. It's hard enough trying to change yourself. Can you imagine trying to change another person that you can't control? Instead of trying to do the impossible, change your response instead. Put yourself in a position where you can guide your reactions and interactions to lead better chain reactions.